You are now watching Water Me Sis.
Hey, welcome back to Water Me Sis Live. I'm your girl, JALEAH. I'm Drea.
And I'm your girl, TAY.
And hey, I did want to let you know that JALESA is in the comments. Hey, bestie. She is the creator of Water Me Sis. We love you.
And happy birthday, girl!
Happy birthday!
And we just want to let y'all know that Water Me Sis is we built this organization built off of sisterhood and building one another and growing one another. We're built off of growth and self-discovery of women. And so we water each other so that we can produce the sweetest fruit and the most beautiful flowers. Now, men, we know you're out there, but this is a platform built for women. But please tap in. You know, we like to hear what you got to say. We love the support of our Black Kings.
Yes. We thank you guys for joining us another week. Make sure that you share this video, like the Facebook page, and also subscribe to them on YouTube, our network on YouTube.
And we did want to give an extra disclaimer for today. We will be discussing some subjects today that can be sensitive and possibly triggering to some audiences. We ask that because of the subject, you stay respectful to everyone's opinions and views. Viewers' discretion is advised.
Yes. So every week we do a little segment. It's called Sisters Before Us. And that is where we just shed a light on women who, you know, are just out here doing the damn thing. So today's spotlight is Rihanna. I know, bad girl Riri. We see everything she's doing with Savage Fenty, her Fenty skin line. She turned it into a 600 million empire. Yeah, 600 million empire. And with the topic today being the truth, a lot of people know that she is a domestic violence survivor as well. So we just wanted to go ahead and shed the light on her. So with the topic being the truth, there's already 3 of us, you know, so we have to bring some men to kind of even the playing field. So we have some wonderful guests. I don't know if y'all want to go through and introduce yourself. Just tell our viewers what you do, how to follow you, things like that.
All right. So my name is Greg Delaney, also known as the Voice Mr. Reality. I do poetry. I am a business entrepreneur and recently a first responder to mental health issues or concerns. So other than that, sometimes I break dance, and you can follow me at Greg Delaney on Facebook, Voice Mr. Reality, or _reality on Instagram. But Greg Delaney, you'll be able to find all of that.
I'm your boy Tree the Truth, TRRII space the THE space Truth. You can find me on social media at Tree Music, TRRII Music. I'm a writer, artist, entrepreneur, business owner. I also deal with mental health awareness. I've saved multiple lives throughout my lifetime, and so I created Tree Music just to, speak life, add value to people, also help them through healing, trauma, things like that. So it's just a pleasure to be here.
For sure. I'm OJ McMillions. My business, I Be the Royalty. It's a record label, up and coming. I also work with Wise Life Records, and big part of mental health too. Have an album coming out called Royal Resilience that deals with a lot of mental health issues, and I actually have an event coming up soon dealing with mental health. So that'll be out here on Friday.
Awesome. Where can they go to be at that or participate?
So it's right on Colfax in Dallas at the community center, and we start at 6:30. Anybody that needs tickets, hit up I Be the Royalty LLC, and I can get tickets to you, whoever needs it. And if y'all need some, I brought some for y'all too.
Okay. And you can put it in the comments later. Okay.
Okay, for sure.
Okay.
Yes.
And that'll be real quick. That's Colfax and Dayton. Dallas is the studio, but Colfax and Dayton at the Opportunity Center. So yeah, I'm performing there as well with my bro. So
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Perfect.
Yes, we definitely thank you guys for coming on here with us. And as you can see with their background, everything is, just tells you why, we wanted them to come on the show and be a part of this. So we thank you guys for that as well.
Yes.
Sure,
Thank
for sure.
you. So we wanted to open up the floor and really just speak our truths. Did you want to tell everybody what that means about speaking our truths?
It's just really just it could be anything, several topics. Because, when it comes to trauma, people deal with a lot of stuff. It could be, domestic violence. It could be rape. It could be anything. And the first step is just actually speaking about it. So we wanted to make sure that this is a safe place, where it's no judgment, where everybody can feel like they can share that information and not be judged. So don't be afraid to tap into the comments, and we hope that some of our stories and our experiences will inspire others to do so as well.
Yes.
The word that we'll use, trauma, a depressing state, or a depressing state, or a very disturbing experience. So there's so many things, like Dre was saying, that can be trauma to your life that still affects you and can affect you as an adult and further on. And we want to make sure that we are being mindful and actually not only expressing, but reaching out for help if we need it.
So we want to basically open up the floor for anybody who would like to start with speaking their truth.
So everybody was like, yeah, me first.
I
tell you about my trauma.
I could start. I have a poem that I feel like I could just share that kind of is a big synopsis. I feel like we can just chat on it afterwards, I guess. So it's an untitled piece that I wrote a couple years ago, just up late one night. So I performed this one time, and so it's definitely not something that
Speak your truth.
You got
girl.
this. You got this.
Just speak.
do that.
you touched me deep down in my soul when I truly did not know what love really meant. You put your hands on me. Decided that I was ready when I had never made my consent. I lie in bed at night or early mornings before the morning light, thinking about all the transgressions that have brought me to this very point. Now this game of misconsent, it begins. You kissed me. It made me feel like 2 seconds felt like 2 days, like butterflies would never go away. You touched me and taught me all the ways to see you in better days. When you were so desperate to have your way, you forced me to do things I didn't know I had the strength to do, but I never tried to stop you. And you stopped yourself to tell me I'm bleeding on the locker room floor, and you made me feel like a whore. You took my innocence and ignored my deep and true love for you. You made me feel ignorant, insignificant, and you tormented me with your childish ways. Oh, these high school days when fitting in was the trend that I could never be like anyone you decided you liked. You changed me. I never could understand why I constantly have to reprimand myself. This is what you wanted. This is what love looks like, until the next man took from me. And he forced me to. I cannot justify these lies I constantly tell myself. You earned it. You deserved it. This is all you are worth, kid. They don't respect you. You can't even speak up, speak your mind, tell them that they crossed the line. And I became a victim to the greener grasses and the late night passes. I feel harassed constantly as if everyone is staring. I cannot be cute every day because the niggas are like vultures. Is it really because they see the victim and the innocence in my eyes, or is it the late night gripper between my thighs? They could never seal a deal with their lies. And I've cried immediately after a sexual encounter, not to his face because he ran up out of the place. I hurt because of a woman of my race will always be second place. Have to be stronger, keep your head down, my mouth shut, suck in that gut, or get bigger butt or titties or whatever society calls beauty at the moment. You fucked me. And now all I see is the darkness through eyes wide shut. You fall back on me because I'll catch you. That's the heart on my sleeve, reaching, deceitful and broken, unknowing who knows it. I'm broken over you. I trust no man because of you, transparent their lies. I hate unjust eyes. I hate to cry, and yet I do because my feelings for you were untrue. Love is fake and only for the weak. This power I seek seeps deep. How guilty you are, and yet you have moved on. What a fucking con. I still have love for the man that changed me forever. He never loved me. I lie here to try and understand how a man can have all his cake and yeah, go ahead and eat it too. But don't you share me a piece because if it were up to me, I'd take that knife and you'd be deceased. I'd cut you out of my heart and my head and excuse me. I'd cut you out of my heart and every inch of my mind without wasting time. You took from me, so I took from myself a bruise that has yet to heal itself. Jesus, please take the wheel because some days I just wish you would take my life so I don't have to admit to these broken lies. I'm a raggedy mess. But in this life, it's just a test to see what was stolen will be taken back. You see, I lie in bed late night or early mornings before the daylight. And I fight my own mind after all this time. I cannot justify these lies. The nights of clouded judgment so I can forget the past days that I never spoke of. So in fact, they never happened. Anonymous T.
It was really deep.
Yes, it was.
It was very deep.
Really?
Yes, and thank you so much for sharing that.
But so, I mean, if we have to go any deeper, but I felt like I have a descriptive art, so sometimes you just gotta say it and get it out. And but yeah, you know, I was taken advantage of. I was I don't like to say naive, but you know, you think you really love somebody or they really have the same feelings as you, but they said women are emotional creatures, but I think feeling and action have to go one in one. But it's an unfortunate thing, and some people don't know that some rape victims are serial rape victims as well. And it's not something that I've never really shared with people, so I'm glad we have the opportunity and listening ears, you know. But you have to take care of yourself, and you have to watch your back because not everyone has your best interests out. You're thinking one thing, you're thinking, oh, we're just hanging out, we're having a good time, and I said no. I said stop.
Yeah.
One of the things that a lot of people don't understand, and it's surprising, but when you look at most of the rape cases, the majority of those rape cases don't come from strangers. They come from positions of love, of trust, or a situation of someone who was controlling, a father figure or a mother figure, something of that nature. And, you know, that campaign that they had to push for a while back, and they still kind of had to push that no means no campaign. Mm-hmm. You know, in relationships, it was a lot of confusion of when, you know, it becomes more aggressive and forced than it is just because we're together. This is what we're supposed to do. And you know, for women like you, or even men who, you know, been in situations, to have that voice and to speak out is very necessary, because a lot of people tend to think, well, if we was in a relationship, it couldn't have been that, you know. And I think that that's an uneducated thought process. But then if you don't have a conversation, how do you know, you know?
Yeah, that's right. Setting those boundaries and understanding those aspects to it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You definitely have to learn how to do those things too. Sometimes you think that you said enough, or you thought that, you know, we have an understanding or whatever the case may be, but you have to definitely learn how to set those boundaries.
And with females too, I feel like there's a lot of like emotions obviously attached, you know what I'm saying? So like how you said in the poem, you know what I mean? Like I thought that you love me, you know what I mean? Like when those emotions are in the mix too, you know, you feel comfortable with a person and you don't think they would ever cross that line, you know, and that line gets crossed at certain points in time, you know. So
And then just the confusion of was that love, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then you got to question yourself when it's all said and done. But for any woman who's watching, any person who's being taken advantage of by a loved one, anything that they're asking you to do, anything they're forcing you to do that you're uncomfortable with, that's not love. Any situation where you feel that you no longer are safe, or that you don't want to be there, the ones who love you would, for one, maybe not put you in that situation, but definitely not push you over that limit. So make sure that you had that conversation, and don't confuse yourself, don't question yourself when it comes to what that is. Anything you're not comfortable doing, you shouldn't be doing, and that's it.
Yeah.
That's the thing, and that can happen too, you know, in relationships, you know. He, you know, feels like he wants more sex or she wants more sex, and they end up like taking it from you. It's still considered rape if you're not consensual. Exactly what you're saying, you know.
Absolutely.
So, and I think that's a lot of things people don't look at, you know, like just because you're in a relationship, like it's not as bad.
Yeah. No means no, and that goes for women too. Don't y'all get it confused. Y'all just can't be taking stuff. No means no.
Okay, so
Exactly.
you're basically saying that women can rape men too.
yes, they can.
Definitely so. Definitely so.
I guess at that being said, I'll start with mine. I was taken advantage of. I mean, I was like 7 years old. I was hanging out with one of my older friends, and my two babysitters were over, and it really just seems like it was yesterday type deal. But basically, like, they just called me downstairs. I was yelled at, you know what I mean? They treated me like shit, you know what I mean? They were young too, you know what I mean? They were like 15, 16 years old. And they just told us to whip our thing, you know what I'm saying? So like, that's like, I'm with my bros, and that's not cool if you don't do it, you know what I'm saying? So I did it. And so like, just, there's a lot that goes along with that. But I was 7 years old, and I feel like that obviously had, you know, played a huge part in the level of where my mind was at, like what really is love type deal, you know what I mean? Like, and it was with, like, I liked my babysitter, you know, she was cute, like, so I'm, same thing, like, it's no problem. But then, like, obviously looking and learning down the line, you know, you really just start to see, like, that shapes a lot of what can happen within a young man's life too, you know what I'm saying? Taking away dreams, goals, aspects of where their focus really can be at, you know, when a young man is only focused on sex or trying to get that nut off, or whatever it is. And so yeah.
Well, that's actually, I mean, and that's one of the things, that's actually a result of being sexually abused when you're younger, you know, with a young mind state. That's the cause and effect is normally a hyperbolized sexual drive. You know, now, you know, a female who's been molested by family or friends or in the past, at this point, she's very hyper about sex because that's the understanding of love. You know, and what's so crazy is that a lot of, you know, and I don't even want to say just black men, because I don't know if it's all men. I just know a lot of black men have went through situations like that. You know, I was molested by the females in my family. For me, you know, I look back now and I could say, you know, I'm grateful that it wasn't, you know, I wasn't molested by men, because I didn't have to deal with the fact that I was penetrated, or, you know, I didn't feel violated in that sense, you know. And when you're young, like you said, you know, it's an experience, it's something that's happening. And if it feels good, it feels good. You don't understand how wrong it is till you get older, then you get into that mindset. But, you know, that shit hit me like a ton of bricks at one point, because then I realized I never had a chance, to give away my virginity. You know, I never had a chance to lose it on a prom night. I didn't have that option. And my idea of love was, if you loved me, you would touch me. You know, you would do this. And this is what love was. And it was a secret thing. But once again, you know, we're young, we're boys, and just because your body responds, and this is one of the things that a lot of even rape victims, females, got to understand, just because your body responds to what's being done to you doesn't mean that you're mentally accepting it. It's just a response. And as a young man, if you're being touched and you have these feelings, you know, your body responds. But when you look back on it, then you see the sickness, and then you see, okay, well, damn, you know. I mean, for me, I can't stand sexually aggressive women now. You'll never catch me in a strip club. It reminds me of everything that the women were to me, because anything sexually aggressive is like, wait a minute, hold on, wait, no. You know, but there's always that trauma that we carry, you know, and it may not manifest itself in a way that you're acting out, but if you notice that you can't keep a relationship, maybe it's because of something that happened to you previously that you hadn't dealt with of that nature, especially, once again, men. You know, we were taught, and I'm older than most, not that old, but, you know, we were taught that being a man, we were taught that being a man meant that you had all these women, and that you had these relationships, and that, you know, the more women that wanted you, the better man you was, you know. And then when you come from a over-sexualized community and time, then how do you get them to like you? You know, you put yourself out there like that. And there's a lot of young women who do. But, you know, having a 28-year-old daughter going through the stuff that I went through, my goal was to make sure that she never had to live that life or be around that, and that you understood your value, and that there was a man that loved you without, you know, you having to be touched or giving away access to yourself.
Starts at home.
Yeah, absolutely.
It starts at home. I was just going to say that earlier. It definitely starts at home, like fatherhood. I mean, I got 2 girls, and I don't care if I'm there 50%. That 50% of that time that I'm there, they're going to learn what to stay away from, you know?
Right, and what a man's love really looks like.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. You have to show them that, because if not, then a female will just go anywhere. And then they'll realize they messed up once they done hit the road and hit the bumps and messed with the thugs and this and that and the third. And I done been around it all. I'm like, I ain't got time. I don't even like sexually aggressive women either no more. And I'm young. I'm like, yeah, keep that. I'm cool. I don't got time, because it's just like, it's a waste of energy, honestly. Like, I got too many things to do. I got a business to build. I got kids to take care of. My baby mom not here no more. I got to do what I got to do to take care of my family. So it's like, I ain't got time for the extra amenities, you know?
It just scares me, just knowing, like, everybody's situation and, like, how it's happened, like you with a babysitter, like, stuff like that, you with being your own family. It's just like, damn, you can't trust nobody, you know, because I have a 6-year-old little boy. And, like, with my troop, I don't even know how old I was, but I just remember being in the swimming pool, and it was just a bunch of people in there, and there was an older guy. He was a brother of a friend that I had, and you pick kids up and throw them and stuff. He was doing that, but when he picked me up, he like slid his fingers up there, you know, like to pick me up. He just kept doing that, and it's just like, just being in a setting like that. My mom was there, you know, like. And I didn't know what the fuck was going on, and I never told her. I still never told her to this day. You know, like, I just didn't, you know? But it's just like shit like that it can just happen in settings like that. It just scares me. Like, who can you trust? You can't trust family.
Nobody.
You can't trust no fucking body. Your babysitter, like, damn, that's why nobody will watch.
But see, that's one of the things is that, you know, when we're talking about kids and the youth being in this situation, that's why it's so important to have that communication like he spoke about. You know, to have that relationship, because you want your kid to be able to tell you, hey, this is what happened, and this happened here. And, you know, it was crazy because I watched a couple of podcasts, and they were, you know, women talking about how they give to their children, that they name their body parts different things, you know. And they were like, stop doing that, you know, because you're taking away from what it actually is. Call it what it is. And then when they say, you know, were you touched here, it wasn't like, you know, were you touched on your cookie, was it, you know, none of that. But that communication is the key. You know, I, like a lot of people, you know, when you don't really see it as being so wrong in the situation if you're not violated, if you don't feel like you was really hurt at the time. It's like, okay, it's a secret, this is what it is. But when it comes out and it's the truth, then 9 times out of 10 you got to deal with the guilt of the fact that you never told nobody. that this is something, did I accept it? Did I really like it? Is that why I never said nothing? And now I'm here, you know? And now you were dealing with the PTSD of your situation that wasn't caused by you. And, you know, it's a lot. It's a lot on it. But that communication is definitely going to be the key to continue to keep the relationship, you know, the communication open, whether it be in a relationship or it be in a relationship with a child. Because if you, with your loved one, and you saying, hey, last night you got a little too aggressive, and I don't like that moving forward. So if it happens again, it's not a misunderstanding, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
And it goes for like boys being molested by men too. You know what I'm saying? Because one of my family members, I don't like saying just out of respect, you know, for one of my family members, but that's one of the reasons why their sexual orientation is the way that it is, you know, because that's the only aspect of love that they had. Like, and I'll just be real too, you know what I mean? Just when, like, I don't want to like feel like he's being called out type deal, but one of my brothers, you know, was touched by a man, you know, we're never having a male figure around. And that was where he was taken advantage of. Now, you know, it's been multiple levels of, you know, addiction that have popped on because he doesn't know how to cope with that. But being one of his, he calls me his little big brother, you know, and it's because of that aspect of always being able to be open with him and accepting and then trying to help and things like that. And just not feeling like making him feel judged, but at the same time, how does he know how to accept masculine energy in the proper way, where you're leading, guiding, teaching with discipline too, you know, instead of like it being like, oh, it's got to be some sexual aspect type deal. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that's something I'm trying to learn too, because I would always think that if you were, like, if a little boy was molested by, like, how can I say this? Like, I would think it would turn you off to the other sex, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so
like,
bringing confusion, or
like
you're
you
not
wouldn't
really
mind-
understanding your sexuality.
like maybe like if I was molested by a man, then I would be gay and like women because I was molested by a man, and I'm like, ugh, like don't want nothing to do with men.
Well, I
But
can say, speaking for myself and telling my truth, you know, because when I was younger, I was basically like touched by a friend, like that was like the same age as me, and like we would go over to after like church, and it would be at the house, and like it's just like you said, like I didn't tell anybody because it was like I started to like it. So it was like when I like came over there, it was just like something fun to do. And I just like know that once I started getting older, I originally know that I liked boys. Okay, like I know I like boys. But then when she started touching me, that was like the very first time that my coochie tingled. Like, let's just be honest. So it then did confuse me, you know, and I started, and then I'm like, okay, well, now I really do like girls, you know, like I like girls too, you know what I mean? So, yeah, so like I ended up basically like going over there all the time and just liking it because she was my age. And then I was like confused growing up. And then like, okay, I would be in church and, you know, they would be like, it's not, you know, like that's not right. You know, it ain't right. And it's a sin and all of that. So I would really try to like probably just pray it out of me, you know, like try to pray it out of my own self, you know, like that's how I would feel. And then like after that, now that I'm like older or whatever, I'm just like, okay, I'm just gonna go ahead and forget about this. Like, I know that God loves me,
Right.
and He's not gonna make me feel bad for like anything that happened to me that I couldn't control.
It wasn't your fault,
And going back to what you're saying, like the reason why you end up liking the same sex is because like that was the first time that person made you feel some type of way.
Yeah, and I understand that.
There's many different levels, you know, and once again, you know, I never was in a situation where I was touched by a man or, you know, molested by a man, but I know that for a man, for me to be penetrated in any kind of way is unnatural. That would scare the shit out of me. I have family members who, in the same family that I'm speaking of, who was molested by men. And, I'm grateful as hell because I look back on it. I was around these same family members who did this to other people, but they never did it to me. Not the men, But, I've been around that. And honestly, this is a man who's now definitely confused. Well, actually, he claims he's not confused in his sexuality. His sexual orientation is he's a trigender. He tries anything. And that was his, for him, it was his trigger. It's always been his trigger because he was touched by his brothers and people like that, his older brothers, and he was molested. That was his idea of love. But once he got old enough, and got scared and went through things, he went back to what he knew. And that was the comfort of a man. And, it's not for us to understand, individually to say, hey, I understand why you did this, why you feel that way. But for us to, and one of the things that y'all have mentioned is one of the things is to encourage people to find an outlet, to find someone to speak to have a professional. The counseling is okay because you don't have to try to figure it out yourself. You know what I mean? You don't have to go through it in your mind 1,000 times trying to figure out if God loves you. Granted, it helps if you could do that yourself, but it's always, taboo in the black communities or in the minority communities about doing the mental side of your healing. Encourage them to get counseling, somebody to speak to.
That's what I wanted to talk about too. Like just the the difference in between cultures and stuff. Like being going through that within your family. I feel like in black families, it's always kind of what happens in this house stays in this house.
Absolutely.
And that's how we're taught, to not speak on stuff that goes on within our family,
or never being comfortable enough to speak on them. Like it's a terrible thing when you feel like you can't trust your own parents to tell them about things that are happening to you, or if you do express those things, they reprimand you and you're in trouble now because of something that someone else did to you.
Right. But keep in mind, when you're dealing with issues like that, it's 9 times out of 10 because those parents are still holding on to some trauma that they had. And they don't want to deal with yours because then they have to deal with their own. That kind of shit. Like we always had that, everybody got that family, family member where they be like, nah, y'all can't go over his house. Or don't sit on his lap. That's always how the
I think that fucks up. Like, why does that,
that's just unfortunate.
But that's the thing is that, this is people, and it's not just a black thing. It's just, it's just that we're more aware of it because this is our culture. Maybe a minority thing not to have a conversation outside of the house. But this happens in every culture. These, white people are.
But I feel like they're more open with like therapy and stuff, where black people are closed off to that. And seeing counselors and stuff like that.
And don't let me speak my truth that I don't know. But what I am aware of is that the counseling conversation is not as taboo for them when it comes to family life situations. But as far as them still being molested, touched, and things of that nature, that's still secret. I mean, it's taboo in every culture. But when you talk about the need for mental health, it just seems that, let's be honest, the white communities had more access to it because they had more funding in their, in that realm. They've had more hospital access. They had more insurance that covered things to the nature as compared to we didn't. So we just kind of had to go through it ourselves. And I don't think that it's the fact that, they don't do it or we don't. I know we don't do it as much, but there's a reason behind the whole process of why things wasn't that way. And it's up to us to kind of change that narrative. And that's why, having conversations like this is important.
I mean, and even, I would kind of almost be scared to go to a therapist, and I'm not sure what they're doing behind those doors. Like, I don't, you're releasing something that's very powerful. Like, they can try to control that. I mean, like, it just reminds me of some Get Out type stuff. Like, you don't know what they're doing behind those doors.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I won't say I'm anti-therapy, but, you just have to be careful. You don't know these people, and you're giving them very heavy information about you. Like, that is scary.
Yeah, but see, that's the point.
I know, and that's what I was going to say, and that makes it perfect for me because I don't know you. So I'll be like, please, let me just give that to you so you can have that, So I don't have to tell everybody else. Like, just for me, I rather be able to tell somebody that I don't know.
Well,
Unbiased opinion.
yeah, I would encourage you to just try it. You know, get on that line, have that conversation, because the biggest issue that we have is that 9 times out of 10, we don't want to have to deal with those truths. And if I'm having a conversation with you and you're leading me down this path where I got to really be vulnerable with you, how comfortable are you with letting that go? Because like you said, you know, I'm putting this out there with somebody who doesn't know me. But that's the point. You got to put it out there, because if you're not putting it out there and you're holding it on yourself, then you're causing yourself the trauma. Then you're the one who's going through the depression. Then you're the one that's physically affected by it, which ends up causing long-term effects. And that's where the conversation starts, like your poetry. You are doing to a whole room what you say that you wouldn't be comfortable doing with one person, but that's just the way that you perceive it. So when you get into that process and you change your mind and you say, hey, look, let me tell you, and this hurt, and it scared me, and this is what I felt, you know. It's a process, and it's not for everybody, but I would encourage you to try it, not just you, but I would encourage anybody to try it before you say, I can't, or it's not comfortable, because it very well may be more comfortable than you think.
And one thing I'll say about therapy, I do understand that trust level. You know, I shared information with a therapist before a therapist go call the police, because that's their quote, their code, you know, to what they're supposed to do. But you told me I was comfortable and I was able to be able to tell you certain information. And you see what I'm saying? So it does put a person in those situations with that lack of trust, you know. But I mean, you know, for the suicide hotline, things like that, you know what I mean? That's those are people you can trust for sure.
Yeah.
You know,
And there's a lot of times you could call anonymously as well. You know, you don't have to have a scheduled. I mean, I do the mental health poetry every last Thursday of the month, and we give out the suicide number and the mental health. You know, I want to say 643 talk is what it is. But you know, those numbers you could call random. You could actually even text. Now, you could actually do a text and have a text conversation with a therapist without actually having to get on the phone and physically have a conversation. But, you know, the main thing is get that shit out.
Yeah, regardless. Somebody you trust, something, like, regardless, it's definitely not something out. And that's why I became an artist, you know. I felt like I could talk about and get that out.
That was your therapy.
That was my therapy.
Poetry for me, that was my therapy.
It's free, That's how I started, actually, was poetry. I started poetry in 5th grade, and then from there, you know, 6th grade came and I started watching some of the artists that were out and about, you know, and I loved the way that, I just loved the look, you know what I mean? I wanted that lifestyle and things like that until I understand how, like, God was going to lead me into being able to use music as a healing tool because of how influential it really is to a lot of our culture, you know. So it really was while healing myself, I felt like I was helping heal others as well, because there's certain songs that you listen to when you're going through that time, and you know, it just relieves you, you know what I mean? It makes you feel free.
Gives you a voice. And that's what's so important about a podcast like this and what you ladies is doing, whether it be about this situation or whether it be about encouraging a young woman, or, you know, they need to see people who look like them, who are young, who are in my genre. You know, I grew up in the gangbang era. We did it because it's what everybody did. You know, and when you look at people, you know, of success and they look like you, it gives you something to look at. But when you have beautiful people who are saying, hey, you know, I'm there and I ain't too much older than you. You know, this happened to me, or sis, you could make it, and this is what y'all do, and y'all are close to their age and you're vibrant. This is what's needed. So it's I'm very grateful for y'all continuing to do that, and just make sure that y'all push that
We
down.
appreciate that. Yeah, that's the whole point, you know, for us to be that. So I appreciate you saying that. I hope y'all, you know, don't be scared to tap into the comments, you know, and speak to us, even if you're not ready to, you know, go deep down and share your own stuff, you know, just on the stuff that we're talking about. You know, if you agree or not, feel free to, you know, comment and talk with us, react, something.
Yeah, but it's really uncomfortable for a lot of people. And you'll be surprised on how many people carry that trauma. And then, so let's take it back. Hurt people hurt people. So that same man that probably touched you was touched by someone, you know, who was touched by someone, and they just never ended that cycle. And if you had that power to end that cycle, and if you feel like it's not okay, then that's your power in that cycle, you know. And it's just stopping the cycle of the hurt. Because if you don't stop it, then what happens? It's just it continues.
And we're going to get deeper into that. But before we do that, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with you guys on Water Missus Live. Stay tuned.
It is so.
JALEAH at our network. Conversations for the youth, by the youth. Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. Youth Media
I'm M. Goodnight.
And this is Robbie the Rocket, and this is Game Point Sports. No fingerprints.
Yeah, where we talk sports with edge here on Game Point, and tune in on Tuesday for Tough Talk Tuesday.
And Fab Five Fridays around 5-ish. Yeah.
Yes, DJ K-Tone, DJ Squizzy Taylor. Make sure you check us out every Sunday. Digital Online Showcase on the R Network. That's AHRR Network. Follow, share, tag somebody.
You dig? Tune in. Yeah.
Hey, welcome back to Water Be Sis Live. Thank you so much for joining us. And we are talking some really sensitive things today. And we have our guest here.
We're going to have our guest, the voice Mr. Reality. He's going to share a piece with us of his poetry. He is well known across the Denver and actually across the nation as a, let me say it wrong, deadly pen poet. A lot of people out in Colorado, I actually was introduced to him by going to one of his venues that he was hosting with the girlfriend, and was able to, be a part of his platform. And it's something that a voice, like he says, he gives to us, and a space for us to, share. He does do a live every Thursday now. It's some dynamic stuff. You hear some dynamic artists, so please, we'll take a break for a second and we'll have him next.
Yes. Okay.
So I bet.
So now
I
you
should
go
be
do
doing
it.
What's ours is yours. Digital Online Showcase. Water Me Sis. Game Point. Wazam, Coloring Castle.
Where I'm from, there's no such things as heroes. Government bombs are aimed at third world countries but never seem to make it further than the ghetto. Nigga, you know the ghetto. Where poverty-stricken parents who never received their royalties name their children after queens and pharaohs. But see, our kings are those that were good at being bad, and those that were bad at being good tell the judge in front of the trial sentencing that they were simply misunderstood and grew up products of their hood. You know the hood, where hood niggas beat hood niggas worse than the police. And the value of the economy is based on how many brothers in the project that week was left lifeless. See, we don't pray to them, we pray to get out of crisis. One nigga who does many wrong gets what he deserves in the hood. To us, that's priceless. See, I'm from where brothers who cross over imaginary lines drawn between blocks get shot up like gas prices. And little girls, it's not the fucking police that they fear. It's that perverted uncle drunk off Thunderbird malt liquor beer. And the little boys, it's not the fucking government that they fear. It's that same perverted uncle drunk off a Thunderbird malt liquor beer. See, the World Trade Center falls every day here, judging by the sound of the mass mother's tears. And children, they don't have music. So what they do is they dance in the street to the sound of their heartbeats. Throw rocks at cop cars and middle fingers up at police. And the news? Fuck the news. You'll never see on the news about that drunk uncle slain in the projects by his nieces for reparational kickbacks. You see, where I'm from, in our community, I'm from where baby mothers who never went to school for engineering a day in their life arm show tracks. Where niggas who's never been rappers or DJs a day in their life spend most of their life on dope tracks. So I apologize. I apologize if I can't get behind the world with all the injustices to the people who's just been done and how it's been done. Because some of us is trying to cope with the trauma of living a life like we live where I'm from.
My name is Haroon. I'm John. I'm Rashad. And I'm Brandon. Welcome to Kingdom Culture Godcast, where we talk about Kingdom, the Torah, His people, and the land.
You can check us out every Friday on the R Network. We don't do this for the culture, we do it for the kingdom. Shalom.
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 Live, that was dope.
That was so
Thank
awesome.
you so much, Shaquille.
Appreciate that truth. Do what I can.
Looking good in that booth.
Oh, man.
I know it was all blued up with your blue outfit.
I felt the moment, and you just had to go with it, man. But you know, it's an opportunity for us to tell our truth. And when you're doing this, you can't be meek, you can't be quiet, you can't, you know, you got to stand up and you got to speak it, because regardless of what you go through, at some point you come out of it, and that's what a voice sounds like when you're victorious, when you don't give up, when you believe that you can make it. You know what I mean? So, thank you. I definitely appreciate it.
Yes. Letting us know where you're from.
So that means too, like, there's also like, I didn't even like really think about that as far as trauma. Like some people go through like with just like gang violence.
Absolutely.
Too. Like seeing people die, seeing their homies die, like stuff like that.
Well, RIP to the people out in Boulder. You know, there's people who really are losing their minds at this moment. I live close to Challengers, and they just had found someone's dead body over in that area. So, we heard the shots, we heard a whole gunfight. So it's happening right here. You know, it's right now, every day. It's not just, oh, somebody died and no one's grieving, no one cares, no one's, you know, giving, you know, what's the word, excuse me, like, they're not getting justice, excuse me. They're not getting justice for this, and, you know, it's more than that.
Yeah, and I think that's where a lot of people get confused. When you had mentioned, you know, PTSD does not come from just veterans of war. What happens when you were abused by your parents, you know, one of the parents or a loved one? What happens when your best friend gets killed and you're next to him? Like, they don't normally ask you to go to counseling for that. You know, I mean, hope nowadays they try to push the narrative, but when you grew up in a gang culture and all your friends have died, when you're going through this pandemic and your aunties and your uncles has died and they were your favorite ones, like, there's no uniform look on mental health issues or mental tragedy, and a lot of people just want to make it depression or anxiety, but there's no so way, much more. Because once again, you could have been a beautiful brown-skinned woman but be the only brown skin in your family, and they picked on you your whole life. You grow up with that trauma. But are they going to say that you need counseling? No, they're going to probably say you acting stupid because you didn't know no better. You know what I mean? Or that's just what it is. Like, there's so many different ways to address it and to acknowledge it. So I really want us individuals to get used to the fact that it doesn't always look like we thought. And everybody is probably going through something, because I'm sure that person who snapped and shot up all the Asians in Atlanta had a mental health issue. Did they recognize it before? This man who did this in Boulder, he had a mental health issue. You don't kill people randomly. You know, these gang members, these the thug that we used to want to be like you killing people on a regular basis. You can't be mentally stable. That's not what normal people do.
No.
Well, so even back to the gang violence, you know what I mean? The reason why I stopped even going to clubs and like even just being an artist, like why I don't even want to go and perform in clubs. Like I was in a club back in 2019, like before the pandemic even hit. And I remember I was in the bathroom and I guess some dude had got his phone stolen or something like that, just brand new iPhone, whatever. Dude literally goes out into the main area of the club and shit and literally shoots dude. And I'm watching, like, I'm coming out the bathroom because I didn't even know, you know what I'm saying? Like, this was just when my mental health was already where it was at, doing drug addiction and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? So I'm in the bathroom doing my thing. I'm coming out. I'm watching a dude run past me. And dude rubs up against me with his blood. And I literally remember his blood. And we were sitting there following him out, trying to make sure he's good, that he gets the help that he needs. We go outside. My bro's over there macking on a female. And I'm over here like, the paramedics end up pulling up and they're just surrounding him, didn't even want to touch him because the whole situation. I'm like, dude, if that was your son, what the hell would you do? Like, why are you just looking at this black man and not trying to help him? And so that young man ended up dying. There was like 3 other people that were shot that night. That was back at across the street from Dorchester. I don't know what the name of that little event. It was an after hours venue.
Oh, the Tetra? No, not Tetra.
The one that you
it's
go
a hookah
downstairs. I don't know. Yeah, it's like a hookah spot.
I was like,
you go downstairs type deal. Yeah. I don't know the name of it.
Across the way on the next block or something.
But yeah, like it was like probably like shit, not even a half a block down.
But between substance and once again, substance abuse is also a form of a mental illness.
Exactly.
And what people don't understand is that when you're on that substance, you're not in your right mind, and so they do things like this, and then you wake up the next day and you got to deal with the fact that now your life is gone because you took somebody's life. But what you gonna do? You might as well get intoxicated or influenced again, because how you gonna deal with that? There's so many levels to this.
It's real,
and that's why there needs to be this many conversations.
But it's not a normalized topic. You know what I mean? Everybody feels like it's a pride thing and not wanting to be able to talk about what traumas actually affect them. And you know, like I said again, even creating true music, like speaking life, adding value, I understood that the traumas in which I had went through, God was allowing me to go through those things in order to understand and be able to relate to certain people so that I would stop judging. Like even being homeless, you know, and going through that aspect and feeling like, damn, I'm not even good enough to be in a society, or I'm only looked at as a number and I'm only a dollar bill. Like, what is my real purpose here? You know, just trying to find your purpose in a world that's like really what you want to do, and you know, instead of just having to go along to get along and being a slave in this matrix system is really what it is, you know.
First of all, that's very deep. I wish I had some weed. I'm just saying if I was high.
But also, going back to the idea that there's so many levels to it, but we're getting generalized, and we're just getting put into, all right, we'll just put you all on ADHD. Oh, we'll just put you all in just these different areas, and there's so many. There's a whole journal basically saying all of the different drug addictions and usage, and in psychology you learn about this, so you can't just generalize people. You can't just put them into one boat.
And there's a difference between mental health issues and a mental health challenge, you know what I mean? And just because you're having a challenge doesn't mean that you have a mental health issue. It just means that currently you're going through it.
That's real.
Getting out of it is the challenge, right? The issue and stuff like that. But when you talk about just how they generalize a lot, I think people tend to do that because it's safe, the same way that they generalize things they don't know. You know, if you ain't acting like us, then you're crazy. You know, if you do something different, then you're a weirdo. You know, and that's the way that they do it. But when you have people like you who do music, who give a voice to those who are too scared to speak, you know, that is one of the things I push on this poetry narrative, you know. Podcasts like this for you ladies to get on. This is where we push this narrative. So
and like you were saying, just even what's categorized as normal in a society. You know, going through a lot of, you know, my healing back 2018, 2019, when I was just going through it, trying to find myself in the midst of a lot of it. I started studying Dr. Sebi, and you know, understanding where he was at and talking about, you know, the alkaline-based diet. You know, and so there was a lot of people that I was like finding that were like, how is it normal to eat an animal, something that's completely living? Like we understand the level of it. Mind you, I still eat meat. It's not like I completely chopped it out of my diet, but just the concept of we live in a culture who has normalized eating a living being where we're taking on their trauma. You know, they're being cataloged, or how do you say it? Yeah, like being cattle, you know what I mean? And being
going to the slaughterhouse.
It's like a torture. That is a torture. Like,
and so if you are what you eat, and they're going through all this torture and all this, you know, pain, you know what I mean? That adrenaline is released into their blood. And as we're eating this food, this is trauma that we're taking on from an animal that we don't even realize. That's why it talks about in scripture, you know what I mean, that he gave us every seed, you know, that bears fruit for food, you know. And so it's one of those things that, like, and then if you're somebody who doesn't eat meat and you're alkaline based and herbalistic, then you're looked at like, oh, you're weird, you're different, like why you act like that, you know. So it's little stuff. I know it's a little similar topic,
and everybody has their own separate belief, but the greatest thing about it is it to find your purpose, you know, regardless of what it looks like. You found it in, you know, Dr. Sebi. There's other people who find it in other religions. There's other people who find it just in, you know, quiet times moment. I mean, it's really about finding yourself and your voice. And then, you know, and I'm going to share this if you guys don't mind. A couple of things that if you look at mental health awareness tips, one of the things that they say is when you're going through tragedy or when you have a trauma, when you're depressed and you're stressed, to verbally say it out loud. Because once you say it out loud, it moves from the back of your mind to the front cortex, where that's the problem-solving part of your brain. So say it out loud so you could acknowledge it, you could recognize it, because once you say it, then it's out there, and now you start working on how to fix it. There's also the thing where they say do self-help. Do things that make you feel better every day, the things that you like to do. Take the time out to do the things that you like to do. And then there's the affirmations about looking in the mirror and telling yourself that you're going to be okay, that you're going to get through this, because now it goes from somebody else needing to tell you to where you're being used to hearing it, you know, and just staying active and staying busy, not sitting in that trauma or that pain, because then that's when it becomes your demon and you can't get over it.
That's real. And I'm a full product of that. You know what I'm saying? Beginning in 2020, my mental health was very, very low, and like I was watching motivational videos. I was doing anything and everything possible to try to get myself rejuvenated again. And you know, sitting in that depression, that shit is too dark.
It is,
know?
But it stays dark, and that's one of the things that they ask me all the time when somebody asks you how you doing. You know, you can be like, I'm all right, you know, it is what it is. But speaking those words of affirmation, and even if it's not your truth in the moment, to speak it into existence. How you doing? I'm blessed.
That's real.
I'm great. I'm doing better. You know what I mean? I'm getting better.
I'm not wallowing in it.
Yeah, those words of affirmation.
Right. What I had to do is I started making my jewelry and like putting it all into that. And because I mean, I even went through domestic violence as well. So I had to actually endure that.
Can we talk about that?
Yeah, sure. I can talk about it. So at first, like this was my first time ever being in something like this. So it was like really crazy. I didn't really recognize it. But thing is that when I started to think back on it, I'm like, I actually really did see signs. Like there were definitely signs, and it was like it built up too. It wasn't like nothing that was just instant. First it was like all verbal, you know, just making me feel bad, making me feel like I wasn't enough. I was too smart. Like, who makes a person like, you know, feel like they're just too smart? Like, why are you using those words? Or, you know, stuff like that. Then it was like we would get into arguments all the time. And it started with just being like right next to me. You know, like when a person just like touches a nose to a nose, that's just like so disrespectful. You know what I mean? Like you just in my space. And then it started there to where it just got to like one day just poof. Just hit me in the head. But the thing was is that I always thought this is how toxic I was too, because, you know, I was just like, because I stayed. And I would fight back, you know? And I would be like, okay,
did that.
I mean, I did. At least I did that. I was like, I was about to be, one of those chicks that just got hit and just didn't do nothing about it. But yeah, like he did hit me one time, and then I was just like, just hitting him. Like we was fighting, basically, and that was the toxic part for me because I kept on staying while he would hit me sometimes.
And that is one of those things. So when we keep talking about this mental health awareness, right? It ain't even about somebody always recognizing somebody else's mental health. It's about you recognizing yours as well. Because you probably did become toxic in that situation, to yourself. And now you're in this situation and it's like, shit, this is just what we do. You trip with me, I trip with you, and that's still toxic for you. You're being toxic because if you had a chance to leave and you didn't, then you're condoning it. You know what I mean?
Yes, exactly. And I didn't leave, but I don't feel bad about that. Like, I don't feel bad about nothing that happened to me not getting out of it like when I did, because it made me who I am now.
Exactly.
So like that's all I can say. And I did at first feel bad about how long I did stay in that relationship and why I chose to stay. And it was all like guilt. It was all like he was like kind of like just making me feel bad, like I just felt bad for like leaving him or something. I don't know. But let me tell you though, when I got the strength to leave, I left and I felt good and I feel good and I feel good now. And it took me a long time. It took me about it's going on like 4 years. It took me like 4 years to be the person that I am and to even speak up on this because it's hard for women. And it's hard for women to talk about it because you have people judging you like, well, why did you stay? Like, and if anybody like really knows my situation, I really didn't have to stay, and they would judge like, why would you do that? But it made me who I am today. So judge me on that because I feel good. I feel good for even speaking out on this because maybe somebody is in this situation and like there are definitely signs. You definitely get signs. They give you signs before they even hit you. Like really, because I had the signs and I ignored them. And so if you feel like you are in a situation right now where you were like with me, like you have the opportunity to get out. Like you do. Like there are sources. There's somebody that you can reach out to. Like there's no reason for a man to put his hands on you.
No.
There's no reason for a woman to put their hands on a man. So it's vice versa. Like a relationship should not be based on putting hands on nobody.
It's supposed to be all love.
Exactly.
And cuddles and kisses and stuff.
Exactly. So know that you can get help.
There's disagreements in relationships.
Yeah,
but not to that point of
you don't
physical.
have to physically harm people to get your point across. And if you can't, then you have communication issues, and that's what the issue is. It's not about you, because I've been in like the same type of situation as well, where he would talk to me super, super crazy in front of company. I'm homely, y'all. Like I just cook and clean and chill, and I don't have no reason to be talking to me all sideways. I don't talk to people crazy. It's not necessary. I don't like to argue. I don't like to fight. Like it's because you don't know where you'll go. Someone can take you very far and take you out of your element and take you out of character, and it's not necessary. It's not worth it. But he just didn't communicate well with me. He just it triggered me to be like, well, you're not gonna talk to me crazy. You're not gonna do these type of things. And well, what you do, I'm doing harder. Like I don't care how big of a dude or how big of a man you are. I'm bigger than you. I'm stronger than you. I believe it and I move in that way. And that becomes toxic behavior as well. And then a lot of things that I noticed that he would do is I felt like he brought things from his past relationship into what we were doing, and I never treated you this type of way. I don't put my hands on you like you said, so and so did. I never talked to you crazy like so and so did. I'm not doing certain things to make you look bad, like so-and-so did. I don't do these things, so why are you treating me this way? Clearly you're not ready for this relationship, and say it instead of being in a relationship and trying to fuck up somebody else and how they're moving forward in their position.
Well, that's what she kept when we were talking about hurt people, right? And a lot of people are moving forward in these relationships or friendships or whatever, business ships, whatever it be, without addressing the trauma that happened from the one before. So I'm not even in a relationship with you, even though we're together. See, I'm in a relationship with the woman who hurt me before you when you remind me of her. But I love your comfort. I love you being there. I don't want to be alone, because if I'm alone, then I got to deal with my own problems. So let me keep you here so I can break you down and remind you what you're not, because what I'm really feeling in myself is that I don't deserve you. And so there, I want to make you feel as if, I'm this man that I know I'm not. And women, I've been in a relationship with a woman women before who would push those issues because they were so used to being, in aggressive situations. That's the only way that they communicated, but you're not going to push me to that limit. You're not going to jump in my face and, force me to react, because that's the way you understand love, because that's how you dealt in those toxic relationships. But, hurt people. And one of the best things about your mental health is knowing when to get the hell out. Right? And then don't get me wrong, if you choose to stay with the understanding of what you're doing and why you're there. Do not ever stay as the victim. If you gotta be there and you don't have because everybody don't have the means to leave, especially during this pandemic. Y'all got locked down, you in the house with somebody abusive. Own your power. But at the same time, prepare your way out. Don't just sit in it. You know what I mean? And it's easy to say, but at the same time, this is just encouragement, hoping that you will, because can't nobody tell you how to do you.
So that was a great point, by the way.
Thank you.
Let's put this scenario out there, because I know somebody who lives on the East Coast. You know what I mean? She's an artist as well, but dealing with the homeless situation, and within her situation, she doesn't have nowhere to go, just getting a job, trying to get her stuff together, but in these very abusive relationships. How would a woman like that end up going to prepare to get out?
Well, and so my suggestion, honestly, would be that there's 1,000 resources. Now, I'm not saying that all of them will work. I'm not saying that they're going to work in the time frame that she needs them to. But until you've exhausted every possibility on how to make yourself better, I'm not okay with you getting out. Yeah. And the thing about it is that if you're in New York and you're trying your hardest to become successful and you're homeless and you don't have a way and you can't make it, take your ass home until you can get back to New York and do it the right way.
Yeah, if they have no home.
If they,
not even family around.
Well, once again, everybody's story is going to be different depending on what they do. But as a friend, I would be trying to give her as many resources, information and resources, women's shelters, homeless shelters, because there's a lot of programs out there. The problem is that they're not communicated in our culture because we don't like to talk about it, and we're too prideful. I can't tell you that I'm homeless because, I don't want to be embarrassed. But there's a lot of programs, man, and there's a lot of them. And we're talking about, things that even Rihanna and them and Beyonce and like programs that they have from the industry side of things, that's what she does. She's in the industry. There's a lot of resources, but who is sharing those resources and where are we stepping up as a community to make sure that if she doesn't know where to go, that 4 of us had sent her information, and it may be the third one that may work. Your information may not, but as long as we're attempting to provide that, you know what I mean? But can't fix it if you can't fix it, brother. But the goal is to encourage.
So I have a question, like when it comes to domestic violence. If you get into a relationship with someone and the conversation is brought up that in their past relationship that they did hit their last partner, do you feel like once a woman beat her or once a man beat her always the same? Like if you did it once, you'll continue to do that? Or do you feel like that's not going to happen in y'all's relationship?
I don't necessarily believe that once anything, always something, because people change, people grow. And the thing about it is that, like Sister said, there's signs. And if this person is still as angry as they were, and they talk about, I used to beat them, we used to get into these fights, and you're still angry, I'm prone to think that this is something that you still do. But, if you recognize the change, the effort, if this person is willing to do counseling, if this person has went through counseling, if this person is acknowledging, hey, I did this and it wasn't right and I'll never do it again, that's the conversation. Now, of course, that's what everybody's going to tell you. But to pay attention to the signs, to watch the way that they move, because I could tell you that there was never, for a lack of better word, there was never a horrible person that came into your life that you didn't recognize the horrible signs. You just didn't want to acknowledge that maybe that's really who they are, so you overlooked it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because you were saying that, like, now that you look back at it, like, damn, there were some signs there.
Definitely some signs.
There was definitely over bacon. I should have known that.
There was definitely somebody who told me before. You know, like. No, I think that he definitely do that, you know. See, and I was just like, whatever.
We be thinking that we could fix
not to
stuff,
me,
not me.
Not to me.
And if he do that, we just gonna work it out. Like we think we could fix it. Like, you know, if this is what a problem is, then we'll just work through it. We'll figure it out. But if it ain't getting no better, are you willing to leave? See, the thing about it is, it takes no strength to stay. The strong person, the one who decides that they want to win, is the one who could actually walk away, because that's the hardest part of this shit. Walking away is the hardest part. Giving up and saying, I know I can't do this with you, is the hardest part. Because who wants to admit that I'm failing at this relationship, or that I couldn't change you, or that, you beat them, but you ain't going to do it to me, so I couldn't get you through this. And men ain't going to walk away from her like, yeah, man, she's crazy as shit, but, I love her.
That's the thing too. We it's double standards. We don't hold women as accountable as we do men.
No, the hell y'all do not.
There's a lot of women who be out here slapping the nigga,
super toxic.
Doing one of those, stuff, and putting their hands in the side different, it's just like a thing. But as soon as he do a little push,
oh, well, hey, it's the belittling.
We're so
toxic. You know what I'm talking about.
That's
right.
Yeah. But there's a lot of, once again, there's so many angles that this comes in at.
Yeah.
Where do you have the conversation? Like, where do you feel comfortable having the conversation? So one of the things that, that I'm sure we're going to do is that we'll put up the help hotline number, the 800 number, the text number, all of that information will be in the comments. Find somebody to talk to, man, because abusive people, when we went through the whole, and this is even from molesters to abusive relationships. The first thing abusive traits are: separate you from the loved ones around you, so they can't then control isolation. So that way nobody could tell you, girl, you deserve better than what he's doing to you, or your boys can't be like, man, what is you doing? Why are you letting him do that? They isolate you. Then they start breaking down your psyche, because now they want to be able to control you. Now you never find nobody as beautiful as me, somebody who's going to love you like I do. You don't deserve this. And now they belittle you. Because once they belittle you, then it's the control factor. Once it gets to the control factor, if they can't do it that way, then it's the power factor. Because now I'm going to put my hands on you, and who you going to call, because now your family ain't dealing with you, because I got you isolated out here. Ain't nobody rocking with you. Now you're going to take this ass whooping, and you better listen to me.
And I don't like who you hang out with.
Yeah.
And I don't want you to this and that, and they're trying to take control of the life that you were living before when you're supposed to be an individual.
So those are the signs.
Oh, man.
Isolation, taking you away from your family.
Belittling, breaking you down mentally.
Exactly.
You know what's so crazy, and if you think about it, these are the same rules of Willie Lynch and the Jim Crow theory. That's what they used to do to the black slave, to the strong black slave. They would take them and emasculate them in front of all the rest of them. And then unfortunately, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to say this, but they would bend them over and do them in front of everybody. The biggest, strongest black man, they would do that, so everybody could see that if this happened to you, it happened to him, it happened to you. It's the same rules. It's just it's sad when it comes from people that you trust, the ones that you love.
But that's a part of the problem.
It's just the control.
It's a part of the problem it's learned behavior passed down for generations and generations, while their families can build wealth and do these things while ours are broken and trying to figure out how to even come back to life again.
Normality.
Yes.
I've seen a comment on here. Sorry, you guys. Sometimes in the watch party, it gets away from us. But I've seen that Robbie Dawson was commenting on there. He was just putting emojis and stuff. So we see you. Shout out to you. Shout out to Game Point. They're another podcast that's on here. So we appreciate you tapping in to Water Me Sis. So yes, thank you for that.
And shout out to our network.
Yes.
We love y'all. Thank you for hooking us up every Sunday.
Yeah, this is an amazing network. I really love it.
So what the topics is there? Like really, so let's see, we discussed domestic violence, we discussed rape, we've discussed gang violence. What about death? You know, that could be a trauma too.
Absolutely.
Like losing someone. I actually just lost my grandmother. She passed away like last week. So that's something that I'm dealing with, but in a different way because I'm not really as close to my dad's side. It was my dad's mother, not my mom's mom. So I'm not really as close to that side. And I think the biggest thing that I'm struggling with now is just regret.
Absolutely.
And myself of like just not, you know, being able to be there and be closer, you know, while she was alive, you know, things that I, you know, wish I could have said and all of that. So that would just be my biggest thing to tell people, you know, like really appreciate people while they're here. Like that's just, you know, real. Like
nothing promised, no time is promised.
Yeah.
Right?
And fix it. Whatever problems that you have, you know, little shit in between family, whatever, that little thing that's bothering you that you're not talking to this cousin about or you ain't talking to this, you know, fix it. Because, you know, if that person is lost, you're going to be regretting that shit, you know?
Yeah, and the worst part about it is that this is what we want to say, and this is what we telling everybody, because now we going through it and we experiencing it. But there's some people out there that like hard-headed people who's like, I don't care, you know, it is what it is until it's gone, until it's too late. You know, I got family members right now who ain't speaking to me because they're in their feelings. And it is what it is. And as the elder, as the man, the uncle in the family, I should be probably reaching out to them. But then at the same time, I can't afford to jeopardize my mental health to try to get somebody in line. And that's one of the things that we want to make sure that I want to make sure that you know, yes, do all your outreach. Try if you can. Leave your door open, but please don't sacrifice your own mental health to help somebody else.
Sometimes some relationships ain't worth being rebuilt. They just not.
And if they're not, once again, what God got for you, He got for you. And if it's going to be, it's going to be. So don't break your back to try to make things happen if they don't. But then at the same time, make sure that you leave that door open for those conversations if they come, because one of the worst things you could do is never get a chance to say, hey, and I'm sorry, and I love you. And, you know what I'm saying?
And that's one thing that I'm going to, you know, turn this into a positive thing, you know, and, you know, use this as an opportunity to now become closer with that side of the family and not mess the opportunity up for my son, you know, because my son hasn't even met his grandfather, you know, my dad yet. So I'm just going to make sure that, you know, I'm not going to mess it up for him, you know, and we're going to use this as a way to bond and bring us all back together.
I'm definitely giving you hugs after the show.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to say, I just, I've lost multiple people, you know what I mean, over the last, I'd say year and a half. You know, from my uncle having his third heart attack, my auntie dying from cancer, you know, and then the whole, you know, health administration trying to say, oh, that was COVID, but it wasn't COVID because she had cancer. We all knew. But then, you know, the strongest one was one of my really good friends. He ended up committing suicide across the street from my mom's house in the park. You know, so that's why mental health awareness for me, and like I used to make music with him. You know what I mean? And like I didn't see the signs that he was calling out for help. Because I have so much going on with my life too, you know, and I can only do so much. And when he took his life, like I said, one of my OGs, he ended up telling me, he's like, get out your emotions. There ain't no money in your emotions. You know, you need to get focused. You need to use that as fuel to fire why you're going to continue to change the lives that you're going to change, instead of using it as that crutch on why you're going to be a person that's going to go and be, you know, stuck on addictions, or, you know, go and try to fill that void when you need to go through that healing and understand, you know.
Yeah. And one of the things that I learned doing this mental health awareness program because I went through the whole certification to become a certified first aid responder for mental health shit, right? Yeah, and it was never my goal. Don't get me wrong. It wasn't something I was doing, but I'm the kind of person that if something's going on with you, and we know this, you know, we did this before. What's going on with you? Oh, I'm just now talk to me. That's always how I've been, you know, and I'm encouraging because I don't believe in failure. I don't believe in giving up. So that's the guy I've been. But when I started doing this live during the pandemic, I didn't realize how many people around the world were broke. Yeah. And I had 3 or 4 people on the live like, I'm about to kill myself tomorrow. You know, and I'm like, nah, call me. You know what I mean? And then we're doing this on this live and people are seeing it, and somewhere along that way it became a safe space for people who were broken because they felt that they could come and communicate and they could get encouragement, because now I got people in the comments who saying, we got you, we're here for you, let's talk, and then I'm giving you these words. But that wasn't my goal. I just wanted to do poetry because I wasn't able to do it in the pandemic. But I have a loving soul. This is who I am. But when I became this first aid responder, one of the things that they had said is that to pay attention to the signs, right? And since we're here and we're having this conversation, some of the signs that they had mentioned is when their depression lasts longer than a week or than it normally does, or that they're really down in their spirits for a long period of time. Then they say start looking for the physical changes in them. Like if you always stay flying now, you notice that your girl always keeps the jewelry on and she always keeps her makeup on, but every time you see her, she's looking busted, she's tired, she's like, this is something that's affecting her to the point she's not able to keep her routine. When people start changing the way that they deal with individuals in their life, whether it be their kids, their job, they're losing their jobs, they ain't working with the kids is running around, they done lost focus with their family, and they always been close with them. Those are the signs that you start looking for in people when you start seeing the physical change. People losing a lot of weight, sleeping all the time, just constantly drunk, constantly high, and that's not something that they always used to do. So they say pay attention to the signs, because if we could have caught those signs, then maybe we could have had a conversation at one point that could have stopped you from going across that street to that park, because I could have seen that, hey, bro, this ain't normally you, like what's going on, and those are some of the signs that you could look for. But we know our friends, and we could say what we want to. Nah, girl, I'm good. But if she's your friend, she's gonna be like, nah, I know you. But quit playing. What's up?
Yeah, check on your people. You gotta check on your people.
The strongest friends need to help too. But would y'all? Man, I just lost my whole question. Would y'all say, ooh? It's going from me.
I know. Unfortunately, we're out of time.
Okay.
But I really appreciate you guys coming on here again to join us. Before we leave, though, we can't, just talk about all this stuff and not give y'all some resources. So I'll just go through them real quick. We have the Blue Bench, and that offers a local sexual assault hotline no matter where you are in the process of healing after an assault. The Blue Bench can offer guidance to dealing with emotions, understanding medical options, feeling safe, telling people in your life, and reporting the assault. The number, hopefully our network is displaying that right now yet. So you can call them. The next one is Safe House Denver, and that is for domestic violence. They take children as well. And this is all local, all here in Denver. As for domestic violence, they have the 24-hour crisis line. And then the last one is the disaster distress helpline. You can call or text them. And that's for counseling and anyone that's really dealing with anything. So that also has a suicide hotline, since we were talking about that in there as well. So
and just a couple of more just to help. Mental Health Center of Denver is the ones who sponsored the poetry venue that I have, and they have a couple of numbers that they have here as well. So for the National Suicide, Colorado Suicide Prevention, it's 1-844-493-8255. For the local mental health services, you could actually Google that, but it's 303-504-7900. And for the national suicide line, no matter where they are, wherever you're at, you're watching this, that number is the 1-800-273-8255 as well. And those are numbers that you could just nationally and locally get to as well.
Thank you. We'll definitely have that information pinned in the comments as well. So I thank you for bringing that. And we will catch you guys next week. We appreciate y'all. See you next week.